Good morning and welcome to the show. Before we begin, I'd like to apologize. This is another out and about episode, so there's cars in the background, people having conversations, air conditioners from the office complexes, things like that. Now, the reason why this is an out and about episode is because I'm severely behind. I've pulled up a couple of my notes and I've seen that there are loads of episodes that I haven't gotten back to you guys on. And I'm going to be moving to and fro today. And if I'm going to wait until I get back to my dedicated recording space, I mean, who knows? I might be gone for another 4 or 5 days. So I figured, let me just whip out the phone while I'm waiting for my next meeting and then see how many of these things I can knock out. So, today is the second part of the Nest episode. Nest, as in Nest, is an entrepreneurship, no, not entrepreneurship, incubation hub. Yes, a business incubation hub based out of Lagos. We do some work together from time to time. The SMEDAN episode, that's the Small and Medium Scales Development Agency of Nigeria. I think that's what SMEDAN means. So that whole series of SMEDAN episodes, that was something that was put together by SMEDAN and Nest. And so I came into the picture by virtue of Nest. So they had another interesting project that they had going on called Project Phoenix. I wasn't able to confirm from Erinola. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. So I wasn't able to confirm from Erinola the rationale behind the name Phoenix, but I thought was really cool. Because apart from the fact that we're dealing with creative individuals on that particular cohort, the idea behind the Phoenix is that mythical bird that would keep rising from the ashes, and with each incarnation would rise up stronger. So there's the myth of the Phoenix, and then for those of us who are comic nerds, then there's the Phoenix from the X-Men. That's Jean Grey. Jean Grey eventually becomes, not Jean, Jean. So Jean Grey eventually becomes the Phoenix, and then there's all that. So I thought it was a real wicked way to name a program, especially given the audience, since they were creatives in the cohort. So we've done the first part of the Phoenix project, and then this is the second part of the Phoenix project. Was a two-part thing, or at least the sales part was a two-part thing. So we started off that session by me doing a recap, showing the things that sales is useful for, because I wanted to go real hard and let the creatives out there know. The creatives in the panel know, and then the rest of you creatives who are listening to this podcast. And then when I say creatives, I mean, those of us who are good with our hands, those of us who make a living with our hands and with our creative talent. So wedding photographers, painters, sculptors, videographers, blah, 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 the sort. So I wanted to let them know that even though we pay attention to the creative and the technical side, because the wedding photographer, the videographer, the number one concern seems to be, is my editing technique right? Is my composing technique right? Do I have the right camera? Is this the proper frame rate? Is the ISO on point? Is the aperture use? Those are the sorts of things we concern ourselves over. So I just wanted to let the whole crew know that apart from cameras and apertures and frame rate and easel and the choice of stone or which quarry you're getting your things from, or whether you're using wrought iron for your sculptures or not, all that stuff is important. But then sales is the most important thing that you're going to need. And the reason why I stress that for those folks, for those of you who listened to the first part, so let me just go over a brief summary, is that sales is useful for market validation. Lets you know, are you on the right track? Is there a market for this thing that I'm trying to push out? Because you're trying to push out something and there's no market for it. Sometimes maybe you're too early. It's nice to know in the beginning, so that if you invest 2 months in trying to get something popping off and you see that the thing is not working, it's nice to know 2 months in rather than 2 years in, after you've invested a bunch of money and your whole life. Then it also helps with refining or identifying your ICP. That's the ideal customer profile, your ideal customer target base, your customer avatar, different names depending on who you're talking to. And the whole idea is that you're indeed talking to the right person in the first place. Because let's say you're a solid artist, you have good stuff, but if you're talking to the wrong person, this deal is not going to pull through. So you need to know from the get who the ideal person is that you're supposed to be chasing down in the first place. Because the only way this thing is going to pop off is if you speak to the right person, the person digs what it is that you're all about, and then there's a possibility that you might be able to get the deal going. And you can only do that if you have enhanced sales knowledge. Then, of course, sales is useful for revenue because we need revenue to do everything. We need revenue to pay the bills, to buy fancy phones, to go on holidays, to take our wives out on dates, to buy fancy wristwatches for our husbands, to pay for school fees, all sorts of things. Then, of course, finally, I said that sales is useful because it helps with business financing. If you're good in sales, then of course you have funds through bootstrapping. If you're looking for equity, that's for those of you who run television production houses. You and your boys running around making documentaries and stuff like that. You need equity finance. Sales skills is what helps you to figure out who you should be talking to, know how to toast the person, know how to, get the whole deal going, that sort of thing. Then, even if you're looking for debt, but from non-institutional sources, debt basically just means loan. So, if you need to get money from your rich uncle or from your auntie based in Canada, sales training is going to be able to help you with that because you now have the technique, the knowledge, the skill to be able to hook up with your aunt, even though you haven't been in touch with her, excuse me, for the last 10 years or whatever. How to get that conversation going, and then see how you can get your 2 million naira, your 10 million naira, or how much your auntie has to get the loan from her so you can get the deal going. So that's the reason why sales is useful. So that was my recap. And then the second part of that particular session was to let my people know, the creatives, what sales is not. That sales is not about talking. It's not about extroversion. It's not about packaging, branding, your personal style. It's not about how aggressive you are, and it's not about how much freestyling creativity that you have. I need to let the folks know in that room, because for some reason creatives think that personality and stylistic elements are much more important. They lend a lot of weight to those things, which is the reason why, if you notice, let's say you have a cousin who studied law, who studied medicine, who wants to become a wedding photographer, or he wants to become a musician, or he wants to become a sculptor. So for some reason, you have this dude who used to be straight-laced, and then he leaves medicine and he just assumes that he's not going to be able to make it in the game until he starts wearing torn jeans, dyes his hair purple, and then he gets dreadlocks and starts wearing sunshades. I mean, all of that is okay if that's your own personal sense of style and things like that. But I don't want creatives hampered to this idea that you have to look and sound a certain way to blow. You have to look and sound a certain way to make it. Now, maybe some of that argument can be had in the music sphere and in the hip-hop sphere. So, if we're engaging, maybe we can make arguments one way or another. But if it comes to growing your television, your video production outfit, or your photography or whatever, some of these things are cool, but maybe not. They're not as essential as people think. So I wanted them to disabuse their mind. It's not about how you talk. It's not about how introverted you are. It's not about your personal sense of style or your swag. It's not about whether you're aggressive or you're shy, or whether you are creative or you lack creativity. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Now, if you're interested in the main thesis that we have explored here so far, that is the reason why sales is useful for creatives and the things that sales is not, then all you have to do is just skip back. It's probably, I don't think it's going to be more than four or five episodes, and then you'll see from the header, you'll be able to skip back 4 or 5 episodes, look at the headers. I can't remember what the podcast title was, but anyway, you'll be able to get the full gist of what we spoke about then. So the second part of the part 2 proper, which is what what we're going to talk about today, was me talking about what sales is, and then how that applies to artists, to media people, to creative people, and then to people who are at the ideation stage. Now, the reason why I'm looking at ideation stage is because there were 2 people in the cohort. Unfortunately, I didn't engage them in one-to-one conversation. I should have done that, but you know how these things are. Lots of people, lots of questions, loads of conversations, and then before you know it, 1 hour is allocated. You guys are already at 1 hour 15, 1 hour 30, that sort of thing. So there are 2 people who are at the ideation stage, so also to make reference to them. So since I had told them why sales is useful, what sales is not, I now decided to talk about what sales is. And I tried to stress that sales is a process. It's a repeatable It's a repeatable process, a sustainable process, but whatever it is a process first and foremost that can be applied by everyone. So it's a process. If you're extroverted, there's a process you can follow. If you're introverted, the process is there. You can adapt it to your personality and to your personality and the things you like or the things you don't like. It's a process. If you have creativity, then yeah, sure, you can apply creativity to the process. It's a process. If you lack creativity, because there's some people who think accountants are not creative, I would disagree with that. So let's say you're a straight-laced, buttoned-up accountant. You wear flat shoes. You're female. You don't wear high heels. What else? You're drab. You only dress in gray. That's not a problem. You can still have a successful accounting practice because it is a process that can be applied by everyone. And so the stage of the process that we explored, I limited it to 5, but depending on who you talk to, some people add more, some people add less. But the process is prospecting, starts with prospecting, then qualification and discovery. For those of you who've been listening a while to the podcast, you're already familiar with these stages. Then after that, there's proposal and presentation, which is the part that everybody knows. So forgive me that I'm sniffling. It's that time of the year. My son is down with a cough. And it's Hamatan, so it looks like it's my time to calm down with a cold again. Yeah, I perpetually have a cold. But good thing is, the kids will be in secondary school soon, another maybe 5 years or so, and I shall be free of constant colds every year. Okay, what was I? Okay, so proposal and presentation, that's the part that everybody knows. That comes after qualification and discovery. And then the final part, which everybody knows, which is close, where you try to get them to pay the deposit. And that's the part that everybody likes. When you hear the ping in your phone and then you check and you see that, oh, so and so has made a deposit of 2 million naira to your bank account, and then you're happy and you go and buy some suya and you drink some beer with the boys. All right. So, of course, those are the technical terms. But I told the folks, don't worry about what it's called, but focus on the intent of the stages. So prospecting, that's finding out who might be interested in your product or your service in the first place, or potential stakeholders who can help you get the deal done. So first stage, who is interested? That's the simple question. Who is interested? Of course, I got them to get their pencil and papers out so they could write down the answers to the question, because I was keen on making sure that they would leave the session and have at least a rudimentary plan, a very basic plan, so that the next day they could hit the ground running and start with the activities that I was talking about. Because I like it when people say, oh, this was insightful, I learned this. But the more time that I spend in this field, because this podcast is over 3 years old, this is over 720 episodes. So insightful, mind-blowing, blah, blah, blah. I like all of that. But what really gets me going is where somebody comes and says, hey, I like this. I tried this and this was the result. I really like that. Or when people come and say, I like this, I tried it, it didn't work. Even that, I like it. When people come and say, I tried this, this doesn't work, this is not for me. I prefer either of those responses, because there are now things that we can reinforce that are going well, or there are things that we can delve into to iron things out and then get the results. So for those of you who are listening to the podcast right now, remember that is my focus. I'm keen to see what it is that you achieve, what you can practice. I want you to do something tomorrow and not just have your mind blown today. So, what was I? Okay, stage 1. Who is interested? That's the basic question. Who is interested? Then stage 2, am I talking to the right person? That is what qualification is. And remember, am I talking to the right person? That's really important, because if you're talking to the wrong person, you are not going to get a deal through. So, back to the old example that I use of the person selling pajamas. You sell pajamas, but you're talking to me, you're not going to get the deal done, because I don't have an opinion about pajamas, and I am not bothered about the kind of pajamas my children wear. I mean, so long as they're decent. But my wife, on the other hand, she has strong opinions about these things. Are the pajamas of a certain quality, a certain color? Do they match the season of the year? Do we have our Christmas pajamas? If we're traveling to grandma's house, what kind of pajamas are we wearing? Yeah, so my wife, she's into that kind of those sorts of stuff. For me, any kind of pajama will do. So if you sell pajamas, are you talking to the right person? Absolutely important. Because if you're talking to If you're talking to a fudge head like me, you're not going to sell your pajamas. But then if you're talking to my wife, you're going to sell a ton of pajamas. So it's important. Stage 2, am I talking to the right person? Then stage 3, does this person have a problem worth solving? You have to be able to figure that out. Because if there's a problem, like in my own case, the kids don't have pajamas, or the pajamas are old, the pajamas are torn, but I think, and yes, that's what I actually think. If the kids have torn pajamas, it's not a problem. They just wear it at home and they wear it to sleep, so it's not a big deal. So, left to me, the kids can have torn pajamas for half of the year and it would not be a problem. I mean, even if my relatives come and they see the children in torn pajamas, for me, it's not a problem. But for my wife, she doesn't like that. Kids have to be well put together. And I'm beginning to move over to that side of the divide, because once I dressed up the kids, we went to church, and I noticed that my children looked like orphans, and I didn't like that. I was like, okay, I now see what my wife has been saying. You go to church, everybody else's child is looking on point, and then your own children look like, like I said, they look like orphans. So I'm beginning to understand what my wife means, that we need to pay more attention to these sorts of things. Anyway, what I'm just trying to say is, make sure that person thinks it's a problem worth solving. So if you sell pajamas and it's a dad who doesn't care whether the pajamas are torn or not, you might not get that deal done. But if it's a mom who is into pajamas and who wants her children to always be on point, it is worth solving. The mom is going to put more money into that situation than the fudge head dad is. And it's the same thing with the artist. Yes, you're talking to the right person, but do they think they have a problem worth solving? If they want a particular kind of installation for the museum or the art gallery, and they're confident that you can do the job, but they think that they don't have a budget, or maybe instead of this installation they can use another kind of installation that's going to cost 10 times less or something, then you can see that this is not a recipe for you closing the deal. Then proposal, presentation. That stage is, what can I do for you? That is where you tell the person, what can I do for you? And then close is when you get the person to take action to give you the money. So regardless of the technical terms, those are just the stages. Who is interested? Am I talking to the right person? Does this person have a problem that my art, my process, my product can solve? And then, of course, you answer the person's questions. If we're going ahead, what can I do for you? And then the close. Now that we have agreed to work, now that we have agreed to do this project, this is what I need from you in return for us to begin. So, from there, we went into the practical session, so prospecting, to show them what prospecting looked like. So for those in the house who are artists, my own idea was for prospecting activities, because it's hard to get to the final buyer if you're a painter. So my own take was that for prospecting for artists, you wake up every day, you try and answer the question, who are the gallery owners in my town I need to talk to? Who are the art buyers I need to talk to? Who are the art exhibitors I need to talk to? Who are the pop-up organizers I need to talk to? Because all these pop-up things happen, like GTB, Guaranteed Trust Bank. That's a Nigerian bank. That's for those of you who are non-Nigerians listening to the show. So GT Bank, Food and Fashion Fair. Let's see, what else? Who else organizes pop-ups? There are people that organize art exhibitions once in a while. Art Center in Abuja, they do some things here and there all over the city. So you need to be paying attention to these sorts of things. Art patrons, yes, art patrons as well. So for me, I just told that was my own 5 cents. That you wake up in the morning and come up with a list. Who are the gallery owners in my city? Who are the art buyers? Who are the art exhibitors? Who organizes pop-up galleries? And who are art patrons in my city? Just write it out. For me, that was stage 1. Of course, I also told them that ChatGPT and Google Bard would also be good allies, because you can also put into ChatGPT. Let's say you're totally out of ideas, your wife is not home from work, your husband has traveled, so you have nobody to bounce ideas off of. You can use these AI, artificial intelligence resources, especially those that are available for free over the internet. Ask them those sorts of questions. I'm a sculptor who only likes working with iron oxide and create personal busts. Who do you think are the kind of people that might be interested in my service? Question mark, and then you hit enter, and then you see what comes out. I can assure you that if it pops up maybe 10 things, even if you think 8 of them are crap, the 2 of them that seem useful will be enough to engage you in some serious sales activities for the next couple of days, if you decide to execute on them. So that's what I came up with off the top of my head. But of course, I told them use these resources, use ChatGPT, use Google Bard, put in the question, see the answers that come out. Of course, after you're done with that, then go to Google Direct, and then you can now type out gallery owners in Ilorin if you're based in Ilorin, art buyers in Lagos if you're based in Lagos, art exhibitors in Kano if you're based in Kano. I'm sure you guys get the point. And then if you do art exhibitors in Kano and you hit Google, and then on Google a list of 15 come up, then it's that simple. Print out that list, start on number 1, and walk your way through to number 15. Realistic expectations, you're not going to do business with all 15. But the thing is, you might end up doing business with 1 or 2. Maybe the whole exhibitors, art exhibitors, you might not end up doing business with all of them. But the thing is, if you follow this exercise and you print out the results on Google, gallery owners, art buyers, art exhibitors, let's say you have now 50 people to talk to. You start working through that list. Before you get to the end of the list, before you get to the end, that 50, definitely you're going to see traction on some points. You're going to see some good results. So that's how we work through it. And that is what I want you to do, dear listener. If this relates to you, if you are a creative and you're wondering, how am I going to sell my paintings? How am I going to sell my sculptures? This is exactly how. So that's the prospecting stage. And of course, I've tried to show you how tools readily available on your phone, ChatGPT, Google Bard, and then the Google search engine itself. If you're a Microsoft person, the Bing search engines, see how all these things can make our lives easier. Then for the media and production people, apart from all these things that I've mentioned that apply, for those that apply, you also look at financiers. You also try and Google, look for media distributors in your city, people who do television syndication. So Google might help with that, because that's not the sort of thing you can go and ask your husband or your wife. Okay, for some of us who come from media families, my father was in TV production, and so was my mom. Sorry, my father was in radio and TV production. Mom started off in production, but then later on moved to public relations. So if you're from that kind of family, you can call up your uncle and say, "Uncle, who does TV syndication in Makudi, or who does TV syndication in Kano or whatever," and they might have some good hookups for you. So that's the thought process for any other creative who is interested. So that's how you work through the prospecting. That's how I work through prospecting. So my challenge to them was create your prospecting list today, and then start hitting up that list tomorrow. Whether it's visit the office, phone call, email, I'll leave that up to you. For now, I have an opinion on what's most effective, but this is how you begin. Then qualifications, qualification stage. Am I talking to the right person? So I told them, create conversation points, because if you come up with this list, you go to the gallery owner, and then you sit down and you start smiling at the gallery owner, a person might just think, who is this idiot? I have other things to do. And then they'll look for ways to send you out of the office. So you need to have conversation points to get the thing going. So I told them it doesn't have to be anything detailed, and it doesn't have to be lots of items. If you have a conversation list of 50 things, 50 questions that you want to ask the person, you're going to confuse yourself. It will end up being like an interrogation, and the person is going to send you out of the office because they're like, this guy's just wasting my time. So I told them, what you're looking for is three to five max. Simple things that you can remember, or just look at your jotter and then get to it. So number one, personal details and background. You need to know that sort of thing. So just have that at the top of your list. You need to know who you're talking to. Oh, good morning, sir. Oh, you went to OAU as well? Maybe you see the OAU sticker behind him, and you guys talk a little bit about OAU. Oh, I graduated from OAU as well. I was 96 set, blah, blah, blah. Some other conversation, go and get some rapport. So personal details, important. Then you need to know about their goals. Okay, so the installation that you guys are working on for this building opening, or this whatever, what do you have in mind, why, stuff like that. How does that factor into what you guys are doing here, all those sorts of questions. So about goals, you also need to have conversations around budget and money expectations. That's the part where you say, oh, Oga or Madam, from all these things that you guys are talking about, sure, that with the way things are now, that's looking like it's a 2.5M jump. Anything between 2.5 and maybe 3.2. Is that the kind of thing you guys are looking at, or Abi, does that make sense? Keep it simple and keep it conversational. once you call out that 2.5, if the guy says what, and you now know that, okay, there's no room here, there's no meeting point. But if you throw out those figures and the guy is like, it might work, but we'll have to talk, Shad. That your 2.5. Anyway, let's be going. Let's talk. You know that, okay, that there's room. You might not get that 2.5, but you might end up with 2.2 or maybe 2.3. So that's how it works. You have the budget conversations. Then you also need to figure out the decision making matrix in the organization. So who are the people that need to be at the negotiating table? There's stylish ways of asking these sorts of things. That's part of conversation where you say things like, okay, normally when we're commissioning this kind of thing, usually, okay, let's say you're talking to a school. Normally when we're commissioning this kind of thing, normally account department signs off and the principal also gives their own signs off on the project as well. So when are we going to start talking with accounting and principal? That's just in case in this case you happen to be talking to the VP. Now this is really, really important. You need to understand the decision making framework, because if you're talking to the VP and you think you have a deal, then at the end of the day the principal comes and torpedoes the whole thing. You've wasted a bunch of time. Let's say it took you 2 months to hook that up. You've just wasted 2 months of your life. So you need to know from the beginning, and you need to ask those sorts of questions. If the VP is important and the accountant is important, whoever is in charge of accounting department, you need to bring that up early and see how you can get principal on board and accounting on board, then get a sense of their timelines. So I told them that the Project Phoenix people just come up with a simple conversational list. Nothing detailed, just a short sheet of paper, just write out. Number 1, personal details. Number 2, money. Number 3, decision makers. Number 4, timelines. Something like that. That is easy to remember. You can look down at the paper and then okay, this is what we should be discussing next. So I also wanted the Project Phoenix people from Nest to come up with simple conversation points on what else? Okay, discovery. That's digging much more deeper into the vision or the goals or the problems that the people are facing, and then the timelines and things of that nature. We're already close to 30 minutes, so I'm not going to say any more about that. Then proposal stage. I impressed on them that proposal doesn't necessarily have to be written documents, because I've worked with someone in the past who used to sell in industrial cleaning, what are they called? Industrial cleaning reagents or chemicals in Lagos. And for her, she thinks that a video is a much more persuasive way to get the thing done. And I agree with her. So for some people, presentation is paper, PDF. For some people, presentation is I'm sitting down with PowerPoint. For some people, presentation is I'm sitting down and I'm playing a video for them. So I just want to let them know it doesn't always have to be paper. So where was I? Proposal. Okay, so a simple format that I gave them is, number 1, you want to summarize to be sure that you're on the same page. So that's about where you say, Oga, Madam, Mr. James, Madam Kate, if I understand correctly, you guys are trying to achieve XYZ. Because you need to know. You might say you guys want to achieve XYZ, and then the person says, oh yes, you're absolutely correct. But apart from XYZ, we're also supposed to do 1, 2, 3. So it's nice to know at this stage that this stuff you haven't included. Or you might tell the person, okay, if I understand correctly, we're trying to achieve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the person might say, look, 1, 2, 3, that's the main. 4, 5, 6, it depends. Let's see as it goes. In that case, you now know that, okay, 1, 2, and 3 absolutely have to be part of the project. So, first of all, summarize. And then number 2, feedback. You have to ask them, is that correct? Am I on point? Are we on the same page? Have I left anything out? Is there anything else you need to add? There are different ways. So according to your personality, your verbiage, you just look for feedback. By the way, it doesn't have to be done with English. If the person is Yoruba, you're Yoruba, and you guys are flowing with your native tongue, then it's all good. This conversation can be had in Yoruba. It's not a problem. Then before you write the formal proposal, you need to ask the question. Okay, so from all the things we have discussed so far, we can do option A, we can do option B, we can do option C, and it's looking like it's going to be the price range between 600,000 and 950,000. Is that okay? Or how does that work with you guys? Is that the budget? Is that the range you guys are aiming for? I mean, it depends on your personality, but you need to have that conversation. So if you've asked all these questions, you saw confirmation, and you give them this range, and they say, okay, cool. Now you can put things down in writing, and you have a firm hope that when it comes down to it, you might be able to get the deal. So close, the final step. What I recommended to them, creatives type, is just use the next step. The next step, basically, you just say, okay, so now that we're okay on this and this and that and that and that, the next step is I need a deposit to get us starting so that I can submit before blah blah blah, and then you keep quiet, and then you wait. Or you can try and close by giving options like, okay, yeah, if everything is on point now, then the next step is payment. Is that going to be transfer, or you guys giving me cash? See, in this case, you're giving them an option. Either way, you're asking the question so that they can get the whole thing going. Now, the podcast episodes that I've made that deal with the question, by the time you get to this stage, you try to close and they say, let me think about it, then there's a problem. But I'm not going to do another let me think about it episode. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, just look back, scroll back. You have to scroll a long ways because I think maybe that was like last year, or maybe 2 years back, and now we have over 720 episodes. But you find out what to do when you get to that. Let me think about it. Let me consult with this person. Let me consult with that person. How you overcome those problems. So that's the end of part 2 that we did with Phoenix, the Phoenix Project people with Nest. Yes, so that's it. Any ideas that you want to be explored here in more details, then check previous podcast episodes, use the headers, you'll be able to get more information on that. Or just connect with me on WhatsApp or on LinkedIn. Let's get the conversation going. Might be able to make a podcast episode to clarify some of those things. So for WhatsApp, the number is 080-6466-2140. Okay, let me repeat. Somebody just decided to drive a trailer past while I was giving out the phone number. And those are the joys of recording live. So the WhatsApp number again is 080-6466-2140. Country code +234 for those of you who are hitting me up from outside the shores of Nigeria. Then LinkedIn, my name is Taveshima Ayede. Don't worry about the spelling. Confirm that after this episode from the website where you're listening to my voice, or the podcast episode. The podcast profile where you're currently listening to this episode. You get my name, you'll get the email address, whatever details that you need. So remember, subscribe to the show. It's available podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple iTunes. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.